Good evening. I bring you something odd. A Panasonic AM/FM multiplex stereo. I know what you're thinking. Oh, geez. Andrew, really? Another receiver? Yeah, you might think that. Just watch what happens when I lift the lid. Surprise! It's a record player. No, don't get me wrong, there is a receiver inside this thing. It's right in there, you can see the dial. But it also has a record player in it. That's what the multiplex is for. If you see that keyword multiplex, you know it is more than just a receiver. It's going to have at least one other component, usually a cassette, 8-track, or a record player. Anyway, let's go over the record player. Basics instruction. It's reminiscent of a BSR, probably similar in performance. Not a critical listening piece of equipment, that's for sure. It's for casual listeners. If you just got a few records you want to hear occasionally and you just want to put them on in the background, this is great. This is not for a dedicated listening room. It covers all the common speeds, 16, 33, 78, and 45. Got some sort of a adapter there. It's pretty dirty. I need to clean it up. That's really the only thing wrong with it, though. Electrically it functions fine. Now I'll take it apart during the cleaning process. I'll inspect it for little ticking time bombs like bad caps and such, but I don't anticipate finding too much in it. It plays fairly decently. Anyway, you can lower it down and use it as a receiver. It has an auxiliary input, which is unusual for multiplex units. A lot of them did not have an auxiliary input. That's nice. And certainly, a loudness control is rare on multiplex units, especially this one, because this one is variable in its intensity. You got AFC, you can turn it on or off, automatic frequency control, that's for the FM. You can kick it in FM mono if you need to, for noisy stereo signals. Although it won't be, you won't have noisy stereo signals too often. It's got a field effect transistor in the FM front end, which should keep the reception pretty strong. It does power on. And speaking of strong reception, I don't actually have an antenna hooked up to this unit, but I'm picking up local stations in stereo. Well, maybe a little bit of difficulty, but not too much. Going across the dial, it's doing pretty good. That is working quite well. You can tell its age. They're quite proud of the fact that it was solid state. You can also tell it's very shiny. Hi guys. But yeah, it's pretty dirty, and I need to go over it and take a look and make sure there's nothing wrong inside here, but I don't think there is. I think it's just really grungy and in need of a trip to the sink and some aluminum wheel cleaner. But I'm not sure how much this little guy's going to cost. Probably somewhere in the $75 range after it's been cleaned up. It's mainly for people that just want something cool to look at, a little conversation piece. Like I said, this is not high fidelity electronics. This is pretty low-end gear, sound quality wise, but if you just want something for background music and something that looks cool, this is great. Anyway, I'm going to take off the front cover here after I unplug it. Safety first. Thunk. There's not much stored energy inside this thing. As you can tell, I'm going to have my work cut out for me figuring out how this thing comes apart. I've got a couple of cables here. It's probably phonograph power. That's the phonograph input right there. And you get this hinge system here, which I've got to figure out how to dismantle without releasing that spring tension. That could hurt me. Looks like some power supply caps back there. I'll go and make sure those are okay. The amp is under this board almost certainly. There's some bolts here. And the lead spacing looks about, and bolt spacing looks like about right for a TO66 transistor, 2 per channel. It does come with speakers, and if you want your warranty intact on this guy, you will use the speakers that come with it. And why that is because it wants 16 ohm speakers. You put 8 ohm speakers on this thing, it will likely overheat. Don't do it. And this unit is old enough that it probably does not have a thermal protection system on it. So I wouldn't risk it. There appear to be some other connections at the other side here. Not sure what those go to yet. I'll have to figure that out. This section back here is the tuner. Like I said, that's obviously power circuit. There's not many wires. There aren't many wires and they're fairly large, so that's probably power. And this one's a little more complicated. I'm guessing that's the amplifier. I'll know when I get it apart. Anyway, I gotta figure out how to get it apart, so I will see y'all in a bit.